I'm so honored to introduce this person to you today. Vince Kadlubek is a founder of Meow Wolf, which is an arts collective that has transformed into an award-winning art and entertainment production company that specializes in immersive, open-world walkthrough experiences. Vince acted as leader and CEO for Meow Wolf through its formidable years, having created the business plan for Meow Wolf's House of Eternal Return and leading the team towards the project's completion in March of 2016. In January of 2017, Kadlubek formed Meow Wolf Incorporated as a full-fledged arts production company and creative studio positioned to create the largest, most innovative and audacious monumental art exhibits in the world. After raising Series A funding, he announced 2 new Meow Wolf exhibits in Las Vegas and Denver, opening in 2021. Kadlubek has been a force of vision in the realm of experiential art, and in 2020 launched a creative consulting agency called Spatial Activations as a platform to usher in a new era of experiential art in modern developments and everyday life. Vince is most passionate about co-creating fully realized alternative realities that bring paradigm-shifting transformation and inspiration to the world. Wow, right? So on a more personal note, I was super excited when I saw that Vince Kadlubek was going to be at Keynote at this conference, because I spent the pandemic watching Meow Wolf videos and sharing them with my students. And, maybe it was an attempt to sort of reach out and try to have these awe-inspiring experiences at a time when we were all feeling a little bit constrained in our tiny little boxes. So I'm actually a super fan of Meow Wolf without ever actually being there in person, which is, I guess, kind of weird, but it's also a testament to how amazing these art installations are. Even in a YouTube video, it comes across and is inspiring. Of course, I'm sure in person, it's going to be exponentially more amazing. And I certainly plan to see one in person someday soon. But for now, I'm just really excited to learn more about Vince and his outlook on the world. So Vince, thank you so much for being here today. I'm really honored and excited to see what you have to offer.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Johanna. And thank you, Ashley, Amy, and Foss, Future of Storytelling, for this opportunity to speak at this conference. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. Just very, very humbling. And yeah, excited to present on Meow Wolf and the kind of findings, I guess, that we've had since we started on this wild journey. So let me share my screen, jump right in. All right. So as was stated, Meow Wolf's an arts and entertainment production company in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we build, these days we really focus on building these large scale, permanent, multimedia storytelling exhibits that are all art and very psychedelic and very weird. And yeah, we have a mission. We're a benefit corporation. That was really important to us. And so we're triple bottom line, really focused on social impact. And the mission that we came up with for Meow Wolf is inspiring creativity in people's lives so that the imagination may transform our world. And this seems like a very basic kind of sentence here, but it actually is like a rabbit hole of sorts, a kaleidoscopic rabbit hole when you really dig into it. And, the power of the imagination and what the imagination is to the human experience and its ability to create transformation, and where transformation exists has really been at the heart and soul of our work, and also of it's really been my obsession, to be honest, since Meow Wolf was birthed. We just recently opened this exhibit in Denver called Convergence Station. And this is a purpose-built 90,000 square foot, 5-story building positioned between 3 different roads. This incredible building. And we opened in September, and it's been it's just been going gangbusters basically since we opened. But that's not where the story began for us. back in 2008, we were just a group of friends in Santa Fe who worked restaurant jobs and hotel jobs and barely made enough money to pay rent on our house, let alone run a gallery or run a project space. But we were in this town that was like so all about art, Santa Fe is like so all about art. And we were from there, yet because of our age and because of our general aesthetic that we were interested in, we just could never like break through. Santa Fe had this identity around it that was very like sunset, desert, turquoise, cowboy boots. It was this like set kind of aesthetic, Sunset Magazine style, and we didn't match that identity. And so we were kind of on the outside looking in of our own city, even though we were artists. So we basically were like, all right, well, instead of waiting for someone to invite us into their project space or to invite us into their gallery, we're just going to start our own. We're just going to start our own venue. So we got together as a group of friends, and there's like 12 of us that first meeting, and we all kind of stacked hands and said, okay, we're doing this. And we found a space, and we chose our name that first meeting, Meow Wolf. We did it by putting a bunch of words into one hat and then a bunch of words into another hat. And we started randomly pulling out words from these hats and just matching them together. And then we voted on which one we liked the most. And it turned out that Meow Wolf won. But at first it was really just like this social group. We didn't know exactly what we wanted to do. We just wanted to express ourselves, like fundamentally, we just wanted to express ourselves. And that would be through art, through events, through lectures, through hanging out, through, social experiments, whatever it was, performance, theater. We would pull materials out of dumpsters and start making these really kind of gross, weird, immersive worlds out of whatever materials we could find. People were crawling around on floors that they probably shouldn't have been crawling around on, to be honest. And yeah, we would open these exhibits to the public, and people really loved it. And that happened for about 6 or 7 years. Like project after project, we would just kind of like build new weird worlds together out of trash, essentially. And then in 2014, what kind of began as a passion project for a lot of 20-somethings in Santa Fe was now like a obligation for a bunch of 30-somethings, because it was like 7 years later, like 7, 8 years later. And we were all kind of wondering, like, what are we doing with our lives? Like we're still doing Meow Wolf, we're in our 30s. We kind of want to start families. We need to get better jobs. Maybe we should go back to college. Like all these questions were running through our heads. And I ended up visiting this building. This is an old bowling alley in Santa Fe. It's 30,000 square feet. And I walked inside of it. And this is like the place where I used to like have birthday parties growing up, so I had like a fond memory of this place. And I was just like, we have to do something here. We have to, Meow Wolf needs to do something permanent inside of this space. So wrote up a business plan and decided like, we need to be sustainable. We need to sell tickets. We need to like actually try to do this in a more legit way than we have been doing in the past. And I pitched the whole project basically to this guy right here, George R. Martin, who's the author of Game of Thrones. And I knew him because he owned like a small little art house movie theater in Santa Fe. And I had applied for a job over at his movie theater. And when I applied, I got a call from the office of his movie theater, and they're like, hey, we want to interview you on Monday. Can you come in? George would like to talk to you. And I was like, wait a second, George R. Martin is going to interview me for like a $15 an hour marketing position? Like, what is happening here? So when I went in, I basically started like pitching him on Meow Wolf, like immediately. I was just like trying to get him to understand what we were trying to do in the world, And he loved it. He bid on it and decided to buy the building. And so that was like the first really big thing that happened for us. And, we ended up raising money and, working on this project for about 18 months. and we turned the old bowling alley into this, permanent art exhibition called the House of Eternal Return. And the House of Eternal Return, basically it's like you buy a ticket, you go down a hallway, you go into the front yard, and there you're standing in front of this 2-story Victorian house. And from this point forward, you don't have there's no thing you have to do. There's no map, there's no guide, there's no like puzzle you have to solve. There's no task, there's no time limit. You could go left, around the side of the house. You could go right if you wanted to. Most people go through the front door. And then you walk through the door and you end up exploring this house of a family. And you can go, like I said, any direction you want. You can go and sit on the couch and read the books that are on the coffee table. You can walk upstairs into the bedrooms. You can look at the portraits on the walls, watch the home movies on the VHS, read journals, really just like snoop around this family's house and learn about who they are and what happened to them. And you start to learn, like, as you explore, you start to find like these clues that, things are a little bit off, that something's happened here, and then you see really significant clues like the chandelier's all twisted up, or, the walls are kind of melting. You get to the kitchen and get to the fridge and open the fridge. And instead of there being food in the fridge, there's like a long lit hallway that goes to who knows where. Or you might open the dryer and it's like a tube it's like a slide basically that goes into who knows where that goes. And I oftentimes say that if there's like one thing that we learned at Meow Wolf, it's that humans have this like deep desire to go through their household appliances. And it's like kind of a joke to us now at this point, like, yeah, people really want to go through their household appliances. But in some ways, it's also kind of a metaphor for what we're talking about here. When we grow up in these houses, when we grow up in like houses that are oddly similar with appliances that are like kind of the same, and we have this whole like existence, that's very similar to our neighbors, and as a kid, you're kind of like, is this it? Like, this is the entirety of life, is like being in a house and you have like the same kind of stove and you have the same kind of like, you all go to the same school and you all kind of watch the same TV, and you wish, you have this like deep desire that there's something else, that it's not just this, it's not just this like standardized format, that there's something beyond those walls. And then when you go through those secret passageways at Meow Wolf, you end up in this like wild world of art and story and play and, exploration, color, and basically room after room of installations that are, meant to be very pleasing to the eye, but also, meant to really invoke curiosity. A lot of musical instruments that people can play, like these stalagmites here, for instance, they're touch sensitive, and so people can touch different parts of the stalagmite and all play like music together. Sometimes add performers into the exhibit. It's a nice stage to do some immersive theater stuff. Obviously, really great Instagram moments. Which is, one way to engage in the place is just take a lot of pictures, which is obviously welcome. But yeah, we basically built out with like 125 artists over 18 months, all these various rooms, fully soundtracked by like 150 channels of audio, to really put people into like a completely abnormal, unknown space. Which art is very good at doing that. And the reaction was like insane. We knew for sure that like Burning Man folks and like, EDC kids and weird art families were going to love Meow Wolf. What we had no idea of was that like people from all over the country would be into this, and that people of all backgrounds and people of all like, all socioeconomic classes and like of all ages would be into Meow Wolf. People who had never stepped foot in a museum before or an art gallery before were coming to Meow Wolf. And this was like crazy to us, in the first year, we were expecting to get like 100,000 visitors a year. And in our first year, we got 500,000 visitors. It made it the most popular attraction in the entire state of New Mexico in its first year. Time Out magazine called it one of the 50 best things to do in the world, which was insane. And then we just got like a flood of press, national press about what we had done. And the Google reviews were like coming in, they're 5 stars all over the place. People were like so into it. And I was CEO at the time. And I was looking at this and I was like, wow, like people really love this, And I would see reviews like this one in the bottom right-hand corner, the one from Hannah that says, I went a few years ago and it's life-changing. And we were getting reviews like this, like life-changing. And I was like, okay, I know we created something cool. I know this is like something fun and cool and weird and new and interesting, but like life-changing, where is that coming from? And so I read this book called The Experience Economy by Joseph Pine, by Pine and Gilmore. And this was written in like the early 90s. And it spoke about a future economy called the experience economy that they could kind of could foresee. And they kind of predicted that was going to be the next evolution of how people spent their money. And they talked about it kind of like this. Like this is like the evolution of economy over time. At first, you had like a commodity, then it went to a good, then to a service, and then ultimately they predicted that it was going to an experience. And you can tie this to the coffee industry, for instance. Let's just take that as an example. At first, the economy of coffee was the bean itself. And then it went to the ground and packaged coffee bean. Then it went to the brewed and served coffee bean. And then ultimately it went to the coffee shop. And sometimes you go to a coffee shop, not even because you want coffee, like because you want to go to a coffee shop. And then you get a coffee like anyway, because you're there. And that's what they're talking about with the experience economy, is that it's about the experience itself that people really find valuable. But that still didn't quite grasp at this like life-changing thing, And so I actually had a conversation with Joseph Pine, with the author. And he said, well, you need to read the latest edition of our book because we added a whole nother category above experience. There's another economy beyond experience. And that economy that they're predicting now is called the transformation economy. And so it's not enough to just go and have an experience. People will want to only have experiences that change their lives, that are transformational. And I was like, wow, okay, so somehow we stumbled into this. Somehow we backed into this. And this moment of the fridge actually, for me, it kind of represents where the transformational moment happens. Because when we say that word, what is transformation? Like what does that mean? And ultimately it means transformation is that you have moved beyond the paradigm that you were previously in. And this fridge kind of represents this perfectly for us. And when somebody walks up to the fridge and they realize that the fridge is more than what the fridge is supposed to be, then maybe the world can be more than what the world is supposed to be. And then even more important than that, when they open the fridge, they themselves as an individual can be more than what they're supposed to be. And that's the transformational moment. It's like we provide access for folks to step through like the fridge of their own life, basically, and be whatever it is that they want to be on the other side. And so I want to talk a little bit about that and what that process looks like. And I think it's relevant. This is relevant no matter what industry you're in. Like, it's relevant for education. This is relevant for like, entertainment, art, whatever. At Meow Wolf, we start with agency. Like, agency is the most important thing. We want people to be able to do whatever they want to do inside the space. So we don't tell them which direction to go. We don't give them a map. We don't line out a bunch of questions for them to have to answer. They have to discover all this for themselves. With agency, they have this empowerment. And then with that empowerment, they choose to explore. And then out of exploration, they then discover. And this is the magic right here at Meow Wolf. Agency leads to exploration, which then leads to discovery. And the interesting thing about this, like this sequence right here, is that exploration and discovery really can only exist within the context of the unknown. If you're in a known environment, there's no exploration and discovery to be had because you've already explored it. It's already all been discovered. So being within an environment that's already predictable and known actually eliminates the opportunity for this critical action of exploration and discovery. And so when people walk through that fridge, they're inside of an unknown space. Nothing has any sort of, there's no reference point for anything. And with that now opens up the ability to explore and discover. And in this world, what's interesting about this like experiential economy, this transformational economy, is that thanks to the internet, we are exploring and discovering all the time. Like, we are obsessed as humans with exploring and discovering basically digesting new content. The reason why we're on our phones all the time is because there's new content on our phones all the time. We can scroll through Facebook, we can scroll through Instagram, we can scroll through TikTok, and we're finding new stuff. And so we've almost like in a Pavlovian way, trained ourselves to only look for new content. But then when you walk out into the real world, nothing's new. It's the same. It's the same as it was in the 90s. Like, nothing's different. It's very predictable. It's a totally known environment where exploration and discovery is, very hard to come by. And I oftentimes tell people, I'm like, don't get mad at kids for being on their phone all the time. Like, just make the real world more interesting, And so, of course, like, go to a Best Buy. Doesn't matter what Best Buy you're in. It doesn't matter if it's Amarillo, Texas, or if it's Los Angeles, or if it's Santa Fe. Like, it's the same Best Buy. And you can also kind of think about this with regards to school. If the real learning happens with exploration and discovery, which I'm sure many people here are like, yes, like that's absolutely right. Then like the environment itself and the practices within the environment, if they're known, then the brain is turning off its ability to explore and discover. It's a lot harder to explore and discover within environments that are predictable. But then going even deeper than like the environment, like the physical environment around us, it's important to consider the knownness of identity, like who we are as an individual. When we're kids, the world is totally unknown. We come into this world and nothing is known. So we explore and discover left and right all the time. The imagination is running wild. The spirit is alive. And we are constantly exploring and discovering, learning, exploring, discovering. But then when we grow into adults, we build this insane apparatus of knowing called the identity. And it tells us who we are, and it tells us how we talk, and it tells us what we like to eat, and how we get to work, and how we get home from work, and what movies we like to watch. And by the time we're like in our 30s or 40s, we've established a whole shell of ourselves that is known. And that shell itself actually also limits our ability to explore and discover. So we get depressed and we have midlife crises, and we can't, it's hard for us to tap into the, the kid that we once were. And people will, are like desperate to try to find a way to crack that, that casing of knowability. And you can do that through meditation practices, exercise, being out in nature. You can do other stuff to try to crack that casing. But really, what we've discovered at Meow Wolf is that direct experiences can do this. Putting people into an environment that is unknown actually has the ability to disrupt that apparatus of identity and open people up to exploration and discovery. These are some pictures of Meow Wolf in Vegas. Beautiful work by Claudia Bueno. One of my favorite pieces that Meow Wolf's been associated with. A large-scale projection map space that we call the projected desert. And these projects are like 2 or 3 times the size of the one in Santa Fe, and just stunning work. And what's amazing is, like, Santa Fe, we saw like 500,000 visitors. We've seen 500,000 visitors a year for like the last 6 years. And in Vegas and in Denver, we're seeing even larger numbers. And so what's really exciting for me in this field is, I want to create stuff that's beautiful. I want to create stuff that's like tells a cool story, is artistically relevant, is fun. But what's really exciting to me is that there's millions of people walking through these doors on an annual basis, experiencing the unknown and allowing themselves the opportunity to safely explore within these unknown environments. Like, it feels like a little Trojan horsey, in a way, where like, if we could do this across the country, we can do this in communities that don't have access to art, or don't have access to the imagination, don't have access to unknown spaces, like just what kind of expansiveness can happen within the consciousness of various communities. This is one of probably the most incredible sculptures that we've created. This is called the Cosmohedron. It's like 40 feet tall. You can go up inside of it. This is in the Meow Wolf Denver exhibit. And in each of these projects, we work with local artists. So like in Denver, we worked with 150 local Denver artists to help collaborate on the project. But I'm gonna go back to the project in Vegas real quick before I wrap, just to kind of like point to the power of the imagination, the power of these alternative realities that are created by art. Omega Mart is a grocery store. And that's kind of the entry point into the exhibit, is you're inside of this grocery store. And it's about 5,000 square feet. So it's about the size of a small Walgreens. And what's crazy about this project is that, like, we sell all these products. We made like 200 products, put them on shelves, put funny labels on them. They're like kind of absurd, but they're actually real. Like, we have actual toilet paper that's like our branded toilet paper, or we have deodorant or shampoo, so on and so forth. So we actually have to operate this grocery store. We have to like keep inventory up, and we have to like stock the shelves and all that. But not only are people paying $40 a piece to go into the exhibit, they're also spending 4 times more per square foot on these products than what a normal Walgreens sees in revenue. And they're the same products, but it's just that they have an artistic label on them, and that they are placed within a fictional world. They're placed within this like alternate reality. And so it's just kind of points to the power of creating, artistic environments, is that like humans these days, for whatever reason, we're like really excited to participate in that, and I think it's largely because we're sort of tired of the world that we've been in, and we desperately want a new one. So, that's the presentation. Thank you for the time. With all this, I oftentimes say, like, we have huge challenges in front of us as a society, as a human race. huge challenges. But like no problem has ever been solved without first having the ability to imagine how it gets solved. And I think at the core of it, it's like getting people to even just access the ability to imagine is like step one, and that's what we're excited about doing at Meow Wolf. So I'll take some questions. Thank you for the time. I really appreciate it.
Vince, that was amazing. Wow. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
That was really great. So much for as I'm listening, and I'm sure all of our teachers are listening, there's so much there to unpack. That's so interesting. And I've seen lots of questions in the chat, but one that has come up a couple times, maybe in different variations, but Paul Wilkins was asking, I know I have students who would love to intern for something like this. Do you foresee an internship for high school art students? So maybe like opportunities at Meow Wolf for students, but even maybe more broadly, like what do you think Meow Wolf has to teach young, designers who want to be creators?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the more direct question of internships and opportunities, the way that we have done it is, we have a whole social impact side of our company that when we make a selection like of a market that we're going to, decide what site we're going to, we then spend months ahead of time, if not like a year plus, of engaging with the community, engaging with schools, and then starting to find where there's opportunities to engage. So we really try to make it like hyper local to the projects that we're doing. So absolutely. So if we ever are in the area, that would absolutely be an opportunity. And I think more broadly, I mean, we started off with empty space, and we basically said like, this space can be anything. Let's just start imagining what this space could be. And I think like even just that small act of like redefining your space, and I think kids do this all the time, probably in their dorms, or I know I did in my bedroom when I was in high school, but just kind of taking that concept even further and being like, how can we create our own space, and that will involve art, and that will involve, various ethos, and that will involve ways of communicating and events or programming of whatever they imagine. But just having that control of your own space, I think, even if it's small, I think is an amazing way to tap into your ability as a creator, as a creative.
Can you talk a little bit about your plans for the future for Meow Wolf? There have been some questions like, are you coming to California, or, what's next?
Yeah. So we are expanding for sure. Vegas and Denver are working, so we're definitely, looking at other markets. So, but we do have a lot of stuff already sort of in the southwestern part of the United States. So, we're trying to branch out beyond that. But like Los Angeles and the Bay Area are like the two most popular, like where the brand is most popular, for us. So we definitely want to go there at some point. It's just a matter of when, but in our minds, we definitely want to go to California. And then other things, like at the heart of it, we are a creative company, and I think what we like to bring to the world is all about like creative expression. And with that, it's like, it's not just these big exhibitions. That there's a lot of different ways to bring creativity to the world. It's not just through these gigantic exhibitions. So I think we're interested in branching out into all sorts of different expressions. But yeah, that's, right now we're just kind of recovering after 4 years of building Denver and Vegas, and then like setting our sights on new things.
Well, if you're ever opening one in San Francisco, San Diego, or Los Angeles, we have a number of teachers who might be interested in participating. So Gail's asking a question that I was really thinking about too, when you were talking about the experience economy and the transformation economy, connecting that to our classrooms. So how do you have any thoughts about how we transform our classrooms to not be so predictable and to be spaces of discovery and agency?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things. I think one, the environment itself. I don't exactly know, how to do it within the bureaucracies and budgets and things that you have. But the environment itself is important. I think that can help. But I also think that it is the programming, or it is the way that a student might show up to a class. Like, I think even just the way that someone shows up to it can alter so much. What kind of language is used, or what kind of processes one might go through. Like, if I go, if somebody was to go into a classroom and just have the thought, like, whoa, this is different than any classroom I've ever been in before. Like, just that thought immediately allows them to start to like consider what it is that they're, and I think like colleges are probably different. High school for sure, that would be like really powerful. Whereas college kids, I think, are a lot more motivated and they're there for much more of a reason. But yeah, I think just like kind of switching up, just thinking about switching up expectations in any way that you can, I think it opens up a channel that I think can be really valuable in the learning process.
That's great. Sherry asks, we're starting a projection mapping class. Do you have tips on how to begin?
Oh, wow. Like there's a lot of really great pieces of software and hardware out there that's entry level, with this, with projection mapping. And I think that like the fundamentals of that, of being able to just kind of wrap around a texture and then animate to it, I think is probably the best place to start. Reach out to Moment Factory. They're great guys out of Montreal that would be that have a big team, and I'm sure somebody there would also love to give a talk. They're one of the best in the world at projection mapping. But yeah, that would be my advice. I don't know. I think like start simple. Don't worry about like being super complex with LiDAR systems or like interactive systems or like the highest quality projectors or, the most complex animation software. Like, just start simple.
So in our institute this year, our theme is Shock of the Now. And one of the reasons why we were so excited to have you, Vince, is because your Meow Wolf embodies like that experiential storytelling that has become kind of part of what storytelling is now. And Charlie Melcher in his podcast talks about the people formerly known as the audience, because being an audience is no longer passive. Like, part of storytelling now is it's all around you. It's engaging. You are an actor in it. Do you want to talk? I'd love to hear you just talk a little bit about like how you see that shaping the creative industries. Like how is immersive storytelling going to change the way we tell stories in whatever medium we're using?
Yeah. Well, this is this is a territory that is kind of, for a lot of people, it's kind of scary, like my take on it. But it's like immersive storytelling is not just going to be shifting the creative industries, in my opinion. Like, immersive storytelling or storytelling in general is going to shift the human consciousness as a whole. Like, our experience of life is going to shift thanks to all of the technological advances that bring story into our lives at all times. If you track like the evolution of storytelling over time, you see it becoming more and more and more immersive and being more and more and more like all encompassing. And I think with the onset of spatial computing, that's going to increase even greater. And ultimately, I think that like our destiny is to live, our destiny as like as conscious beings is to live within dream, and so I think we're we're striving for that. Yeah, I think, more concretely, like how does immersive storytelling, how's it going to impact creative industries? I think live performance is going to become way more valuable in the future, because if spatial computing can open up, basically if spatial computing can unlock physical space and the world becomes a stage, what the content people are going to be looking for is going to be in-person live content. Like digital content will be obvious. It'll be like AR over here, AR over there, virtual headset, blah, 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 blah. But like walking up on someone who does like an amazing, like, dance routine, or like someone who is an amazing juggler that I just happened to like encounter on the street, like that's going to be like, whoa, awesome. Like that was an amazing moment. And so I think I'm a big believer that like live performance is actually going to make a huge comeback thanks to the capabilities that spatial computing opens up.
Well, our theater teachers have been hit pretty hard by the pandemic, so I'm sure they're really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like maybe 2 more questions and then we'll wrap. This one is from Paul saying, what do you think about Resolum? I'm not sure I'm saying that right. Software regarding video mapping.
Resolum. Yeah, Resolum's great. Yeah, Resolum's, I mean, I'm not a projection map artist myself, but I know that a lot of people who are at Meow Wolf who do projection mapping, Resolum is a good one.
And what do you think of spaces like the Geneva UN meeting room?
I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
I don't know.
Paul, you want to tell us what that is? Maybe? It's a cave.
Cool. Nice.
Oh, yeah. That's
awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
I like it. I like any unexpected spaces, anything that's out of the ordinary.
Wonderful. Well, Vince, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And you're wrapping up our 2022 Virtual Institute. So
awesome. Cool. Well, thank you for having me. It's really great. It's very weird to give a presentation knowing that there's like 200 people out there listening, but then I'm just talking to myself kind of. So I hope it resonated. I hope it connected, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.